the biggest challenge or obstacle for our physical well-being is technology. Yes, technology helps us, but then because we talk about ourselves, we talk about our family, our children, they are on gadgets. Back then, it's more physical.
Yeah.
People were connected with each other. They were outside, outdoor
Yeah.
sports more. So that actually helps them to live a very good life when it comes to physical well-being.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شيخ أحمد كيف الحال؟
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. الحمد
بارك الله
لله.
فيك حياك الله. Speaking about well-being,
Mhm.
about physical well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, these kind of things that sometimes we see that into the psychological book, the book that speak about psychology, but sometimes we look at it, okay, that's something nothing to do with Islam. But subhanallah, I mean, for you to have a happy life, these things actually, if you use that into the Islamic perspective, this will make you have a pure and a happy life, content life, subhanallah. For this is one of the things that we find many people they neglect in regard to their physical well-being, for example, and their mental well-being and the spiritual well-being. But sometimes you find people they're like, well, I'm going to take care of my body, for example. I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to have good diet, but at the same time, I'm not feeling happy. They're like, all right, I'm going to be actually working on my mental well-being. You see them doing their kind of breathing in the morning, meditation, and then trying to think positively, but still there's something missing. When they get into that kind of situation, like what's missing? They forget about the other part, which is the spiritual well-being, which is their heart, subhanAllah. How do you think that as a Muslim can do that triangle of having all these into their life in order to be happy?
Yeah, subhanallah, there are a lot of concepts which are packaged in a modern world are actually having deep roots connected with Islam.
Yeah.
We say deen, right? Islam as deen, as a way of life. This way of life is a way of well-being. Allah being the provider of well-being, and Quran being the recipe of well-being, and Prophet Muhammad being the role model of well-being.
Yeah.
We get total and holistic understanding of well-being. We talk about physical well-being. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, your body has a right over you.
Yeah.
You take care of it. Sleep well, eat well. Take care of your, all your organs.
Yeah.
In a way that will lead you to a physical well-being. When you talk about spiritual well-being, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." With the dhikr of Allah, with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find tranquility. Unless we get into the remembrance of Allah, we can't afford to think that we will get spiritual well-being. So Islam has taken care of all the areas of well-being, not leaving any part that a person would like to, be in a state of well-being is missing in Islam.
It's so true. When we speak about physical well-being, you mentioned about the Prophet Muhammad say, for verily your body had the rights upon you. And one of the things that we neglect sometimes is like our sleeping time and our way of how we keep fit and our diet. Because sometimes we actually neglect all these. Yes, as a Muslim, yes, we read the Quran, we make ibadat and salah and everything, but this is one of the aspects where we find out many other people are neglecting what's leading towards sickness and diseases. For subhanallah, even if you look at the Prophet Muhammad and the Sahaba, they used to be fit. They used to make, by the time they were 60 years old, they were still on the horses, they were still able to run, they were still able to actually defend themselves and the family. For I personally believe that your physical well-being is something very, very important for both men and women. There's a concept over there that says that only the men can go to the gym, only the men. No, for both.
Yes.
Because you can never know, because if ever you don't take care of your body, you're going to get sick.
100%.
And you're going to actually get yourself into some kind of situation where you have to ask people to take care of you. So when your well-being is very important as a mother, as a wife, and as a father, as a husband, as a leader of a community, I personally believe that, as a person who's looking towards having a happy life, working out and taking care of the nutrition and their body plays a big role.
Indeed.
Big role in order for them to be happy.
Yeah. Like, today the biggest challenge or obstacle for our physical well-being is technology. Yes, technology helps us, but then because we talk about ourselves, we talk about our family, our children, they are on gadgets. Back then, it's more physical.
Yeah.
People were connected with each other. They were outside, outdoor sports more. So that actually helps them to live a very good life when it comes to physical well-being. I think there should be a routine in our families as leaders of the home. We must set certain disciplines, only this much time for your gadgets, and we must encourage, because children would like to play.
Yeah.
The wives, they want to spend time with their own friends, perhaps.
Yeah.
We should connect, we need to facilitate them.
Yes,
With
true.
different activities, so that they can be away a bit from the devices and
Addiction,
can really experience the physical well-being.
Yes, actually, it makes the family and the life of the individual happier, actually, because when you feel that a person always in the house, or you find that those children are always with their devices, and they're actually being into that bubble.
Yeah.
So when you give them the space to go out, as long as it's within the boundaries of Allah Azza wa Jal, you find them subhanAllah become happier,
Yes.
more smiling. Even subhanAllah, sometimes when you feel that you've overworked in a day. Let's say, for example, myself, there are days where the whole day we're just teaching and preaching, the whole day until 4 o'clock. And after Maghrib, we have the dars in the masjid. After Isha, I have another dars in the masjid. When you go back home, you feel sometimes you want to go home, and sometimes you feel very, you're tired, mentally tired. And at that moment, sometimes, you know what I do, Sheikh? I go and make some round, and I walk in the park. They'll be asking, why did my family already know that now? Why? Because I'm doing that for a purpose. Because sometimes you're working out removes stress.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may not what has happened into your work, what you're going through. If ever you don't go out and work out and remove that in that way, you might go out and remove it on your family.
Yeah. And subhanAllah, there is a tight connection between your physical well-being and mental well-being. Obviously, when you are tired and you feel sick physically, it definitely affects your mental well-being,
as well,
and it definitely affects your spiritual well-being, because you wouldn't be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that you can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a healthy way. That's the reason Islam is termed as deen, as a way of life that takes care of your total well-being.
Yes.
It's not just about the mental, it's not just about the physical, spiritual, social, economical. It takes care of the total personality as a whole,
Subhanallah, when you look at people nowadays, you see them when they have neglect their physical well-being, and like how you mentioned, it does affect their mental well-being. Someone just down there, and he feel that he's very chubby, for example. He's being bullied at school. I'm taking something from a school perspective. And then people don't want to play with him. They start bullying him, for example. And that affects his studies.
Yeah.
Affect his mental being. So now what happened is, there are two things you have to work out on. But that's why we advise everyone over there that nutrition and the way you eat is very important. The reason why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned, you eat for a third, you drink for a third, and you leave a third of your tummy full, your stomach full, for air.
Sorry.
And then this is something that if and Nabi Sallallahu would eat only when he would be hungry. But this is something that we need to understand for our well-being, and that will actually help us mentally. So when we're physically fine, mentally become, I would say, always positive in life, optimistic. Why? Because we feel good. Mentally, then what happened, it's having this kind of connection between each other. We might be actually focusing on these two, but if ever you do not focus on your spiritual well-being, which is between you and Allah Azza wa Jal, your soul in there.
Definitely.
Like Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned that, our nafs inside, our heart, our nafs is the driver, and our body is the transport.
Right.
And our body do whatever the nafs tell them.
Drives,
And we know very well.
Yeah.
النفس الأمارة بالسوء, نفس المطمئنة, نفس اللوامة. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that there are different kind of nafs and your soul inside. So if ever you're not going to, you want to have a happy soul, for example, or a tranquility soul, which is tranquil. Allah says, as you mentioned, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. In the remembrance of Allah, your salah, your zakah, your hajj, your siyam, your qira'ah of the Quran, it soothes your soul. You're actually feeding your soul. The same way we just mentioned, you go to the gym for your body, you actually think positively for your mind, but when it comes to your heart, it's all between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. Subhanallah, look at the person who prays Salatul Fajr in the morning. And after that, he has the adhkar and he reads some Quran. Look at him in the morning compared to someone who just woke up and gone to work. Other one is grumpy, other one is sad. You see, you don't want to approach him. But the other one, though he woke up earlier, he's fit, he's smiling. You know, the light in his behavior, subhanallah.
When we're talking about, obviously physical well-being, mental and spiritual, a lot of times people don't realize the importance of economic well-being. When we talk about business, people involved in business, how important it is for a businessman to live a good life, in a way that he can actually conclude that, as a businessman, my life is full of well-being. My mindset as a Muslim dealing with business is very different than anybody else.
Subhanallah.
I will chase the pleasure of Allah in everything that I do. I will dictate the rules, which is very much practical. I will never overburden people. I will never, take undue advantage, which a lot of businessmen are doing.
Yes, so true.
I will always speak the truth. I will never lie in my transactions, in my dealings. I will ensure that I will work in a honesty, basis. I will leave any and every deal if it involves me to do something that is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is where I focus on my well-being, in an economic sense.
Yes, subhanallah.
Likewise, the employees, people out there, they are working 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 8 to 3, whatever timings, they are punctual in there. That actually shows that they are well-being. They are clean. As we say, cleanliness is half of your faith. So I'm displaying my well-being. I'm committed with the tasks that I am being assigned. What does it indicate? It indicates that I'm well-being as an employee, subhanallah. So I think talking about well-being in holistic sense is really needed, and it must come from from our maker, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So true, because I personally believe that if ever you do not focus in any of these, as you just mentioned, the economical well-being, sometimes you may find people that have gone into some kind of financial crisis. And at that moment, you see them sitting down and crying. So at that moment, they stop being positive about Allah Azza wa Jal. They carry on. Take care of your physical well-being, mental well-being, as well as your spiritual well-being, and do not allow one of them to control others. Akhi, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who listen to the talk of Allah, the speech of Allah, and put them into practice. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Barakallahu feek wa jazakallahu khairan.